Energy tech doesn't move forward alone, and neither should you. Energy Tech Cypher brings together the founders, investors, operators, and corporates shaping what's next. From innovation trends to data-driven insights, this is where the ecosystem connects, collaborates, and moves. Find your place in the ecosystem at energytechcypher.com. That's Cypher as in CYPHER, where we bring the community together online and in person.
I'm excited today because we have a new set of guests here on the show at Energy Tech Startups. We have Jacob and Jason. Jacob is at Stag Advisory and Jason is at Pontem Analytics. And they have different names for their firms, but the reality is they're a team. And they've been in a team for multiple years, dating back to, working together at Hess. So why don't you, Jacob, take it away and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I appreciate you having us here today, and thanks for the opportunity to share our story. That's something that we were not able to do a whole lot of while we were at Hess. One of our growing frustrations, and maybe we'll talk about that a little bit, is the inner workings of the corporate ecosystem and the immune system of a corporation, which does prevent internal messaging and free flow of information coming in and out of the organization. So, yep, I'm Jacob Vizinat. We work together at Hess. I started an advisory company very similar to the work that we were doing at Hess, actually driving innovation within the business. And it's been an interesting several months, but time for us to start sharing some of our knowledge with the broader ecosystem in Houston.
Exactly. Jason Harry. So spent 14 years at Hess and a little short time at Chevron after the merger. I'm a subsea and operations offshore specialist by background. So I like to lead with domain first. And, taking a shot at things in AI. So machine learning, deep reinforcement models and et cetera. So that's the type of work we do at Pontem Analytics, but still day to day, Jacob and I are calling each other once a day and talking about, how can we help different companies run through pilots, evaluate different companies and products. So we do that pretty often.
Yeah. I would say my domain specifically is in the drilling and completion space. So I graduated from LSU with a petroleum engineering degree and went through the ranks, starting in the field and went into engineering management and then later as a operations management role. So my core domain is drilling and completions.
Yeah. So I imagine after you graduated university in petroleum engineering, you worked for a big oil company. What is it like working for a big oil company as a petroleum engineer? Like, what is your day-to-day? Is it focused on making sure nothing goes wrong, hitting goals, like putting out fires? Like, what drew you to it and what was the experience like?
Yeah, I'll go first. I mean, I think we've had different experiences, and we both started, I think, on the service sector, coming straight out of university, and then later transitioned into traditional oil company, upstream oil company. So risk management is a huge part of what we do as individual contributors and as managers and as leaders within the organization. Mm-hmm. But you'll find that depending on where you are in your career, your experience and your day-to-day is very different. So very early in your career, you're building your technical foundation. So you're learning how to drive those calculations and learn the work processes and learning the operations and how stuff's actually done in reality, not in textbooks. And I would say that probably takes the first 10 years or so of your career. Okay. Then you move into kind of first line management, team leadership, that kind of stuff. And usually corporations put some of the best technical people into management roles, which is a mistake to a certain degree, but that's what they do nonetheless. And those individuals have to kind of figure out how to lead people and how to be a manager, et cetera. And then after about 20 years, you get into senior leadership where it's not really about the day-to-day operations. It's more driving strategy and stakeholder alignments and things like that. But what was your experience?
Yeah, so very similar. So started as a subsea operability and flow assurance consultant with Wood, just fresh out of Georgia Tech with a chemical engineering degree. Worked that for a long time and just, it was all about simulation at that time, simulating things in Olga and Gap and Prosper and HYSIS and, determining, running, tens of thousands of simulations to determine an outcome or a decision on how you build an offshore platform in field. That was completely different from when I actually started working for an oil company at Hess. And then I started kind of managing the guys who did that stuff and doing it as a manager of contracts and taking out what was important from those engagements with the consultant and bringing it up to management. Over the years, I became the technical authority for flow assurance at Hess. And then again, around that 10-year mark, you start getting the itch, like, where's my career about to go? And I found a deep connection to technology. And that's kind of where Jacob and I met, and we've been really bonded and really close since.
Yeah. I know obviously Hess got rolled in, but what was the innovation ecosystem like within Hess? What was the kind of structure that helped distribute technology throughout the company?
So we had both a top down and a bottom up kind of approach, which was unique to Hess. And I think as we learned more about our peers, it was a very advantageous setup that we had.
Okay.
I don't know if that was really by design or if that's just how things kind of worked out because by necessity, things weren't going the way they were supposed to go. But we did have a CTO and a technology office. And, we talked about that a little earlier ago. And that team was essentially responsible for scouting what technologies are coming down the pipeline 10 years from now, 7 years from now, 5 years from now. But the difficulty there is that they're not aligned specifically with the business, particularly the domain. And Jason and I talk about domain knowledge and leading domain first innovation as being something that is critical to actually moving things forward, and not in a theoretical or theatrical way, but in an actual way of deployment, et cetera. So at Hess, we had a team that we belonged to that was embedded in our business unit. So we supported our Gulf of America business unit as well as our offshore Denmark at one time. And we collaborated closely with our Malaysian counterparts that were all offshore. We had another team that was similar to us, but they focused on our onshore assets. We come from our offshore asset, our offshore business, flow assurance, production operations. I was a drilling and completion manager. So we knew our business, we knew the people, and we were able to really push and run pilots and drive innovation in a very effective way because we knew the business and we knew the technical domain. So we
knew the people.
And we knew the people. We had relationships. We had that street credit, if you will. But what was your experience?
Yeah, I would say so. I came into the job the job in the business with Jacob probably around 2021, 2022, and like some of the first things I did was try to use the equity that I built up in the technical domain first space, right? And try to use that to influence the technology that I deployed. Yeah. So like, I think I started the job in June, and by August I was doing like a tour of the platforms. I was flying from each platform that we had in the Gulf, and kind of going to spread the gospel about technology, and really getting down to what do you guys need to make your job better. And one of the first things, which us Jacob coming from the drilling background, domain background, I'm coming from production. We get out there and we're trying to push things that will improve production and improve drilling. And we get out there and the guys are like, well, hey, we need to stop using this pen and pad, and we need to start using some iPad or some mobile device to capture our inspections. And we're like, that's it? So that immediately became the top priority, because that is where you had the pull and you could gain more equity in being able to spread the word and start to move pilots. Right. So we started out with that one first, and we gained a lot more equity by trading their pen and pad for iPads. But as simple as it sounds, it was not easy.
Yeah. Talk about some of that friction, and I guess on the one hand, if you can pull us through, why did it take so long to identify the problem, maybe? And then second, what were the barriers to kind of get something that seems very everyday kind of deployed?
Yeah.
And also, tagging on to that, why did the offshore operator's boss not tell anyone, like, hey, our team doesn't want pen and paper, they want iPads? Like, why wasn't anyone
Why wasn't it filtering up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, in the offshore world, right? You have a tower or office of people who are just sitting there and they're running day-to-day business, and you have the satellite offices, which are offshore, which are your platforms, and the people offshore, they rotate fairly frequently on a 14-day basis, and they're busy focusing on keeping the platform up. They don't have much time to call up to the tower and say, hey guys, we need XYZ.
Okay.
And once we receive the problem, and we call it, we follow a lean methodology. And one of the big things in lean is going to Gemba, meaning you go to where the work is done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people were guilty of not doing that. And that's why Jacob and I, we have such a human-centric mindset. Like, what does the end user need with some of these pilots that we're going to deploy? So kind of back to the use case, right? Once you take that use case of turning paper to electronic, you bring it back to the office, and there's just tons of debate going through this corporate, what do we call
Immune
it?
system.
The corporate immune system.
Yeah.
So you get back to your office. Hey guys, we would like to deploy a digital inspection capture software. Oh, well, it needs to run through IT. We need to make sure that we have the contracts that fit this purpose. How we're going to do the software selection. And it's just this whole corporate thing that you have to go through to get to eventually deploying something. And that probably took 6 to 9 months before we even, started our first inspection capture with digital devices.
And I would say that, why doesn't that individual offshore voice those things? It's because it takes 6 to 9 months to impact change. And their mindset is hitch to hitch to hitch. So they're thinking
14
about
days, you mean?
14 days or 21 days. And if they can't impact change in that window, then they're done. They don't want to start that journey. But the friction is also in all of the red tape and the frustration. Just like, you want to get a new iPhone or whatever it is, it's not just rolling up to the store and buying a new iPhone. It's phone calls, it's data transfer, it's the two-factor authentication, and on and on and on. So imagine all of that taking place remotely offshore, where
Remember we had to struggle with your 2FA. This is by all. We struggled with it for like a month. I can only imagine if you're offshore with poor internet and you can't get into your Teams account, how frustrating it is.
it kills innovation. Because in your personal life, you're incentivized to get your new iPhone, et cetera. You have a personal connection. You have to understand that the business of innovation and driving technology, you're dealing with people's discretionary time. They choose to do it or not to do it because they have a day job. They have expectations to meet. Ops managers have budgets to deliver, et cetera. So when you do get them to try something, that's their discretionary effort you're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's not. So there's 1,000 reasons why they can say no after that point. And there's no ramifications for saying no, right?
Yeah.
They'll just do it the way they've been doing it all along, et cetera.
So to kind of achieve your goal of getting this technology deployed, how did you win people over? Did you have a boss who was like, listen to Jason Jacob, they know what they're doing? Or the answer is it's not always that easy. It's not always that easy. So what did you have to do?
It's the opposite, actually. I'll tell you a funny story because, I went through drilling completions that we talked about. That was my domain. My prior role to getting into technology was DNC manager for the Gulf of America, which I had a massive budget, a massive team. I could get lots of stuff done. So, we started to think about driving this technology team and standing up a new team. I said, it's going to be easy. I'll run a few pilots. I mean, I've drilled wells all over the world and deployed teams in very complex things. Running a few technology pipes is going to be super easy.
It's
That
very
was
humbling.
actually the very humbling experience. And, I found myself having to, kind of beg people, hey, can you give this a shot? And my domain was the toughest domain to try and get anything done in. The drilling and completion folks wanted nothing to do with my ideas after I was not their manager, so to speak. So that was a very humbling and learning experience.
And is it just that cycle of the job is the job? And like you said, all the innovation implementation is on your free time. Is that really the barrier?
It really feels that way.
Yeah.
And, if you ever been part of a large organization where they were trying to roll out a massive change, so maybe it's lean management system, maybe it's technology initiatives. Nowadays, it's AI, right? You have lots of folks who are just, turtle syndrome. They just want to go in their shell and wait for this to pass. And, if I stay in my shell long enough, then I won't have to do this. So, you have to deal with all those kinds of resistors is what it's called from a change management perspective.
Yeah. My observation also is granted, it's been a while since I've worked in a corporate environment, but you'd rather just play defense and make sure you don't have a failure versus try to be like Kobe and win the game, you know?
Absolutely. It's funny you say that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Set you up there.
So I think what people don't realize and what a lot of energy tech startups don't realize is when you're pitching to a oil and gas company or operator, much of the landscape that you're going into is experimental. So you don't have to pitch the perfect product, or you don't have to set up a quote to deliver the entire elephant. You're taking the first bite out of it and proving what you can do for the company, proving that you can deliver some value with that pilot or that technology. Jacob will tell you, during our time, we probably tested maybe 20 to 30 pilots in I would say a 4 or 5 year period.
Okay.
That's pretty good. One a quarter.
What would you guys think the success rate of what we end up scaling would be?
I would guess 5 to 10%. That would be my guess.
Yeah. So maybe 2 or 3 actually stuck, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And actually, I think when the digital, the one that I spoke about earlier, the converting paper to digital, I don't even know if that stood up after the merger.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the IT systems probably come from the acquirer, right?
So if only 2 or 3 was successful, you could take a -1 on that one.
Well, so I want to. I have the opinion that I think energy is very willing to adopt technology when it's very clear what the value is, and so help me paint the picture, because I've never worked in your shoes. I've only come as an outsider. But when I sit back and watch kind of the shale revolution, there was so much technology that was tested, and obviously different from offshore, because offshore people can get really hurt. But when I think about just changes in how ESPs were developed, all the experimentation that went on between the different types of frac fluid that went in, and just the actual process of fracking and completions, I think that took a lot of risk, and maybe that lived in smaller companies. But if I remember, Hess at a certain point had a pretty substantial unconventionals portfolio.
Bakken,
and had to get it at some point, right? And had to stay on that leading edge, because I think we all remember unconventionals were not profitable in the beginning, and people figured it out, right? And that only happened because of a lot of technology development. So I guess in some ways, tell me what happens when things do line up, and people say, no, we're going to spend the money to figure this out.
Yeah, I can take a first shot at that one, because it's an interesting question with maybe an unexpected answer, at least for me. The energy sector is a conundrum. So being offshore for 20 plus years, I've seen how technologically advanced we had to be to exploit reservoirs in very deep water depths at very high pressure. So 20K stacks and beyond 10,000 foot of water. Yeah. It's literally like landing stuff on the moon and all that when you watch what goes on at the seafloor. At the same time, those same individuals are unwilling to digitize their handover documents. So they'll deploy a robot at 10,000 foot of water at 20,000 PSI pressure on the seafloor, but they won't digitize their tally books. This is the same people. And I've thought about that quite a bit because it was my job to drive innovation and technology for about 6 years in the offshore space. And what I've concluded is when technology is standing in the way or an enabler to get more oil in the pipeline, direct more oil in the pipeline, we're all over it. The industry's all over it. But if it's not 1 degree separated from oil in the pipeline, then there's all kinds of challenges on the human side to get things done.
Yeah.
What's your perspective on that?
I think coming from the subsea space, it's a little bit different. It's not as technologically advanced as drilling and completion. I saw a presentation once saying that subsea, it's probably only gone through maybe 1 or 2 technology cycles since like the 80s.
Wow.
So because all it is it's just pipe with really not a lot of instrumentation on it. You have some instrumentation on your subsea trees, and subsea trees are now going from 10K to 15K to 20K. And now next thing you're going into is like fully electric trees. But subsea, that's really about it.
I mean, I think that's a lot of technology. I mean, you got to do this like basically on the surface of the moon or the bottom of the ocean. I think that's hard.
To install it, to maintain it,
Make
to
sure
decommission it.
It absolutely is.
But I guess there's not the same glory, I guess, the way you describe it of deployment. But I think that takes a lot of engineering, right? To figure out like what's the thing that'll last, because it's got to last, whatever, 20, 30, 40 years, right?
Yeah,
exactly. But at the same time, so like, to compliment Jacob's, oh, there we go.
That's one.
That's one. Yeah. So to compliment Jacob's analogy, where you're doing moon type stuff and you don't want to adopt tally books, in subsea, there's a huge problem with capturing of inspection and inspection anomalies, and that stuff is worth. It has massive value because like we're required by regulators to go out every 3 or 4 years to go and inspect the pipe, and you basically have to fly over with the ROV over every inch of equipment every 3 years. But where technology is going, even with production anomalies, you should only be going after the anomalies. So like if I get let's say 20 anomalies, I should only be going back in 3 years to go and have a look at those and make sure that those are not getting worse. So there's tons of room for optimization in that space.
It's management by timelines and plans, not by incidents.
Exactly.
Exception-based strategies.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think the industry is moving in that direction in all facets and forms, but it's slow.
So what I'm hearing is for entrepreneurs like looking to come into the energy industry, if you can help a company, produce a barrel of oil and there's a good ROI on that technology gets implemented. And I think that makes sense, right? Like the energy industry is so focused on proven reserves, you can kind of tie the value of a company almost to what's there, right?
Absolutely.
And,
but there's so few companies out there that actually are 1 or 2 degrees separated from oil
in terms of the technology being able to directly impact it, right?
I mean, he said earlier we did about 40 or so pilots. Only a couple, 2 or 3 of them were directly related to increasing production. Yeah. The others are more qualitative, if you will. They save time to make things more efficient. Not that they're not important, but they're not directly quantitatively connected to oil production.
Yeah, and then the secondary one is these indirect ways to benefit. Maybe unlocking around regulatory, right? Is the other one I'm hearing is a big driver, but not as strong as getting more out of the ground.
Yeah, they're vitamins, not painkillers.
Yeah, and that's the fundamental challenge. Is the ecosystem knows where all the value is. It's in the rock, right? Yeah. And everything else is kind of secondary. And I think that's easy to forget that. Like you got to focus on delivering value to the industry. And if you don't do that, you're really just you're just a vitamin.
So it's funny. I think it was like last time I was at Greentown, I actually ended up running into both of you outside Greentown Labs.
That's right. Yeah.
So Okay, so merger happens. You're now your own boss. You have your own advisory firms or working for like more entrepreneurial organizations. Tell us what you've been up to now. Even though you're not at Hess, you're still like tag teaming, my understanding.
Yeah. So for me, you guys remember I told you I started out at Wood as a flow assurance consultant. I've joined up with a group called Pontem Analytics, and Pontem, they're kind of the next level. Like it's a whole bunch of domain first guys who are kind of out to deploy these machine learning models, these AI models that delivers exactly what you just mentioned, right? The 1 degree of separation away from increasing production. In the flow assurance world, I mean, we hide barrels every day behind slugging, behind not properly allocating where your wells go on a daily basis, and I think that's kind of where Pontem is after.
Did you pilot with Pontem when you were at Hess?
Did we pilot with Pontem? Pontem had just formed when we were ramping down. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. But we did do some similar pilots in that area.
Yeah.
And those directly impacted and put barrels in the pipeline. So I'm excited for what's to come with Pontem.
I'm going to reveal how little I know about the industry. I don't know what flow assurance actually means in terms of like a role, and it sounds like a very specific but jargony role. So please explain.
You got the right person right here. We might have to do another podcast.
I understand drilling. That one's kind of straightforward to think.
All right,
but
you ready?
Please explain.
You got 20 minutes.
You got 5 minutes. Give us the elevator pitch.
No, it'll be quicker than 5 minutes. But flow assurance is basically it's some people think it's black magic, right? But it's preventing anything that could completely stop your subsea or your pipelines from flowing. There are things called, I don't know if you ever heard of hydrates.
It's kind of like butter. Is that a good example?
Well, hydrates, hydrates are more like ice.
More like
right?
ice.
Oh, is it ice? Okay.
You can
can burn.
You can form ice in your pipeline with when you put cold gas and cold water together.
Okay, then it like clumps together like slush, right?
Makes ice.
Yeah, makes ice.
And I could do a whole podcast on that, right? And how that.
So it's cold down there, not hot?
It's cold, yeah. The seabed is about 38 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh, okay.
So when you have hot fluid going into a pipe, you got to make sure that it gets all the way up to the platform at a decent temperature and it doesn't freeze. So that's really what flow assurance. And you've got paraffins and asphaltenes and all these things that could really impact production. Right? Again,
because they shrink down the flow area in the pipe, or they clog it up.
Shrink down the flow area, or can completely block it off. And in my experience, I've probably had to encounter and resolve probably about 6 to 8 of them.
Okay.
And
so what happens when there's an incident, like alarm bells, your boss calling you? Like, what do you do?
No, so somebody calls from offshore. Hey, Jason, I just tried to start up the well and the pressure just keeps going up and I don't see any flow. Right.
Okay.
And that means you got a blockage. So I like to say it's more like I've gotten good. I do a lot of property management around my house. I've got really good at plumbing, but it's the equivalent of my 5-year-old just stuffing a whole entire toilet paper roll down down the toilet,
down the sink,
and fix it up.
What's the fix? Do you heat it up or do you pig it, or what do people do?
You can't heat. You can't pig because you're gonna make another.
Wow.
So there are chemicals that can help you clear things up. You can do it through depressurization. So like, lowering the pressure so that you get outside of the hydrate envelope. Or if you're in the worst case where you can't do anything, you have to call a vessel out, and it puts a vacuum on the flow line and it basically sucks the hydrate out.
Yeah, and so just to kind of paint numbers, I assume pulling out a vessel is like $1 million a day kind of situation, and pigging is even more expensive. And that's why you never do it. And you said something interesting. You changed the flow condition. So I guess the hydrate is it's chemistry, right? And so if it's like you can do things to make it boil off. Is that essentially what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
By
exactly.
manipulating the temperature.
Yeah, actually, you can't manipulate the temperature. So
Well,
you
sorry,
have to
the pressure.
manipulate the pressure.
The pressure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or you need to manipulate the kinetics or thermodynamics by injecting some chemical and manipulating
doing
the
it both.
pressure, right?
That's magic.
I'm
I
not
told you,
even.
it's black magic.
It's black magic.
But the whole, like most things in life, it's better to be preventative than reactive. So if you can prevent the hydrate from forming in the first place, which is a lot of what flow assurance does as well, is that they give recommendations on certain types of chemicals, LDHI and other things, so that the hydrate doesn't form in the first place.
Yeah,
So
interesting.
the name of that's proactivity.
Okay, I would think like that's a really important function because like if you spend, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars drilling a well, like you want to make sure like it doesn't get clogged.
Yeah. It is $100 a barrel right now too. It's like real money.
Yeah, so it's very important. And before you start producing oil, like in the design, right? That's where a lot of the money is being built. A lot of money is being spent, but actually hardly anybody's spending the money in operations.
Oh.
And that's probably like the worst thing you could do because you could be optimizing as you go and finding those hidden barrels. Yeah.
Like operations and maintenance work, that's like not sexy. Like
No, not at all.
when the government wants a new bridge built, they'll roll out the drums and a press release for a new infrastructure project, but then so much maintenance doesn't happen. So
Yeah,
I
it's
can see
like
that.
the Lake Charles Bridge.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. If you're fundraising now or know someone who is, I want to tell you about Saffron, our investor relationship management product for energy tech founders. Think of it as a CRM built for energy fundraising. Use our recommendation engine to find the right investors faster and then track every conversation and stay connected through your raise. There's a free tier, so you can start today at no cost. That's CEPHYRON.com. Now, thanks, and back to the show. But I don't know. I understand why you don't spend that much on operations. A lot of times, especially when you look at these like business models that just print cash, right? It's all about minimizing OpEx, right? And you obviously put a big bunch of CapEx in getting that platform out there. And in the short term, if you can produce that barrel of oil for what, $10 a barrel or something, it looks really good on the cash flow statement. And anything that increases that, I can see where the managers, don't want to do that because that's not what the stock market wants.
No, you bring up a good point, and I'll comment on that, and I'll go back to your question. I'll tell you kind of what from my perspective, how things have gone since corporate life, if you will. But a short term view on economics and performance is really what kills innovation and technology. Innovation requires executive leadership and sponsorship across the executive team for a very long-term commitment. The second the commitment wanes, the whole organization, from a discretionary perspective, just fluffs it off. They're like, oh, EVP doesn't want to do that anymore? Okay, I'm done with that. iPad
or the EVP
whatever.
gets switched out.
Or you get switched out and the initiatives change. So driving technology, AI, innovation, whatever it is, requires a long-term commitment.
Yeah.
It cannot be short-term focused.
Yeah. And that's hard, especially when you're a public company.
It's
right?
very difficult.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. But I think the executive leadership team has to bring that mindset into the rooms when they engage shareholders and stockholders and stakeholders of all kinds of shapes and sizes. They need to firmly express their commitment to long-term change and unwaver from that statement, and then that sends that message down the organization, but also sends the message to the stock market. And then the stock market kind of holds them accountable going forward. I just haven't ever heard that from hardly any of the executive leaders at any of the oil and gas companies, honestly. I feel like they're sort of operating out of the 1990s playbook of executive leadership.
Yeah. Do you think it's better at like maybe privately held or family owned?
Not necessarily, but they're
What are the privately owned oil companies? Aren't they all, I guess when they get to a certain size, they all become public or they all get rolled up.
well, they're
right?
private equity backed. Many of the
Okay.
onshore are private equity backed, and there are some that are offshore as well. But but yeah, their focus may be a little bit different, more longer term.
Okay, because
But
they're looking
typically-
to be flipped or something.
Yeah, but typically those are also very stringent business metric driven because they are looking to have that bottom line increase, et cetera, and demonstrate to the market that they've gone from $20 a barrel lifting costs to 15 to 12, et cetera. And in the short term, on paper, that looks great, but they might be sacrificing integrity spend and other things that they have to pay for later. That's not obvious on paper today. I won't name any companies, but there are some that have done that successfully in the short term.
One of my angel investors in my last company was in a group of like ex-Weatherford guys, and one of the guys there was a specialist in, they would like buy up a bunch of leases, and all they would do is just do CapEx on technology improvement, take the lift cost from whatever it was and cut it in half, and then turn it around in 2 to 3 years and sell it again, because it just made the cash flow look a lot better. And these were all, they were older aged wells, things that were, not quite stripper wells, but still lower production. And it was a good business for them.
Yeah.
And so like maybe that's just the way the cycles need to work sometimes, where they come in with a plan of, we're going to retrofit everything a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we saw that a lot when they were like digitizing control systems, for example, on lift.
On older,
yeah, exactly. So it's just the dynamics of what capital wants kind of steers the innovation plan sometimes. Yeah. You were going to say something before I cut in.
No, I was just going to answer her question earlier, which was, how has life been for myself and Iron Stag after decompressing from my corporate career, if you will. It's been interesting because, there's a variety of different customers that I've been able to kind of help out. So one is a natural fit, which is a company similar to Hess. So a mid-size oil and gas company that has a desire to deploy technologies, et cetera. Why should they relearn all the lessons we learned, if you will? Why should they vet all the companies that we vetted? Yeah. As we mentioned, we tried 40 and only scaled a handful of them. So why should they go through the same process? Yeah. So I've been able to help a few of those companies through advisory services, et cetera. Jason and I. We're starting a project next week, actually, that's just strictly change management. So we're going to help a fairly large company deploy technology in a more effective way that really aims at the human-centric side of change. So Jason and I are
so you have to do touchy-feely stuff?
It's not. It is kind of touchy-feely for people like us who are engineers and not necessarily the most touchy-feely kind of people, but we appreciate it because once we started, we went to change management training probably the last couple of years there at Hess. And we was able to take that knowledge and really help to make our last few pilots go really well. Okay. So we appreciate the impact and believe in it. So we believe in it. We want to help others do the same. And then the third group of people that I've been able to work with is where we met. Is through the investing side. So venture and private equity, where I help them to understand what the upstream customers are kind of looking for, not necessarily today, but where are they going tomorrow in the next 3 to 5 years to try and, shape their investment thesis aimed at that future deal. And I kind of bring the voice of the customer into the room and help startups and early stage companies understand the perspective of the customer and help lower their customer acquisition cost. Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question, and I'm not sure you're gonna have a good answer, but I'm gonna ask it anyways.
We'll have an answer.
What are the what are the exciting technology? Like, what are the technology themes you're excited about right now?
Go ahead, man.
Yeah, probably one of the most exciting I saw this week was we really like the drone and robotic space, right? We spent a lot of time when we were working at Hess at this company called MFE in Pasadena. I mean, they are way on top of their game, like as far as deploying these Boston Robotics dogs for inspections, reading gauges, deploying drones like inside of vessels to go do inspections so that humans don't have to enter. It's a very dangerous job, as well as imagine an offshore platform, maybe, I guess, 300 feet tall or something. And imagine you have to go down and look at the legs of the platform. Now you can put crawlers down there and attach magnetic crawlers with cameras on them, and they go and do integrity inspections there.
Yeah.
So
why do you think this company does it better than probably like all, the dozens or hundreds of other vendors out there?
Well, it goes back to the human centric part, right? They're folks that they go to the plants, they figure out the problems, they talk with people, they're very personable, and they bring out a robot. It's just that simple.
And they're domain first people as well. They're all inspection people. So
exactly, yeah. So I think those are going to be the winners in this this AI boom. You go to these conferences and you see random people coming up to you and they're like, "Well, we made a flow assurance model in AI, right?" And how'd you do that? We dumped every flow assurance paper from one Petro into this model, and go ahead, ask it any question you want. Yeah, but did you talk to the people?
The people who have to use it and know what their well does, right?
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Right. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's really it's a two-sided answer. So to accompany the drones and robots, I think just the general surveillance of IoT devices and sensors and telecommunications and the ability to just collect enormous amounts of data from stationary video cameras, et cetera. We see drones and robots just as the mobile version of that. So you take a robot and you put certain sensors and LiDAR or gas, whatever it is, and it goes and collects all the data for you. You couple that with AI capabilities and the digital technologies that we have today, it starts to help you get more like spider senses all around you. So you hear the term digital twins and all this other stuff. We don't normally use that word digital twin, but all of that collection of data helps you get perspective and nuance from a surveillance perspective. Jason talks about find to fix. And, in old days, find was a very slow process and fix was an even slower process.
Okay.
So now if you have sensors and robots and drones and AI to put it all together to tell you from an exception based, hey, you need to go deal with this issue, not 10 miles of pipeline, but you need to go deal with this 10 foot of pipeline. Then you can deploy a more specific tactical deployment. But what really excites me more than all of that is being able to work around people who can orchestrate it all together. You see people who can do, amazing technology development. There's people that run their business effectively and have a strong domain understanding, but there's very few people that can put it all together and orchestrate the outcome. Yeah. And there's a few around now.
Yeah. What makes them I agree with you. There aren't that many orchestrators out there, but
Right.
what are characteristics of those people?
So I would say a domain first understanding, somebody that has a strong understanding of the value case, the value chain, the technical workflows that go on and whatever it is, whether it's producing oil or a chemical. Then that individual has to go from a very tactical mindset to a more strategic, forward-looking mindset to understand that you're not going to be able to flip a switch tomorrow and have that capability stood up. That individual or those individuals have to know or have to understand that it's going to take a journey to get there. We've produced and tried to produce many artifacts over the years that articulate that. And we develop sun charts and roadmaps, and it's hard for people to really put that together. But those select people can see that vision, but also they have the ability to tactically move it along the journey. So we always used to say, man, do I have to be strategic in this meeting, or is this a tactical meeting? Is this theater or is this reality? And we have to go in and understand the messaging because it depends on who you're presenting to.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the things that connected Jacob and I, right? So again, I was coming out of 10 years as an expert and, just getting with Jacob and starting in the technology group. I got to stand behind him and see him tackle the strategic stuff and lay out the plans and go talk to the executives about things. And, it helped me connect the dots on how to go run things and knock out tactical execution on the pilot side and just just have the strategy in mind and just go find the pilots to execute. Let's do them. Let's hurry up and fail fast. Again, I spoke earlier about being experimental with pilots. Let's do 1,000 of them if we can. And let's take the shortest amount of time to figure out if this is going to work for us or we're going to throw it in the trash can. So, being the tactical leader, it helped me, and watching him kind of help me develop some of the strategic sense. And now, I'm using that in my career. As Jacob mentioned, we're going to help somebody with the touchy-feely things, right? One of the things when I sit at a table and someone said, what's the most interesting thing about you as an engineer? Well, hey, I'm a ProSci certified change manager.
Yeah.
You don't see that stuff with domain engineers, right?
I think one of the things we talk about here at Energy Tech is, obviously AI is going to change things, generative AI and agents, but especially in energy, where you do have to go out and meet people, the AI won't replace, people getting together and seeing what actually happens, but it's more about getting the right people in the room together and then helping them, learn the best practice or have all the right information. But at the end of the day, you gotta be boots on the ground. You got to talk to the operator, and the operator isn't. We already talked about. They're not writing, a manuscript for you to put into, Chat GPT, because they got other things on their mind. And what AI is going to do is help get the right people together. Right?
Absolutely.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Good.
So this is maybe a side question, and I don't know, Jason, if you'll like this question, but I'm going to.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So I wish one day to go to an offshore platform.
Pass. I'm
I would
good.
love it.
You're on your own, man.
I was telling Jason
it
I
seems
was
cold.
No, I was telling Jason I went to the Amazon warehouse, and I love field trips.
Yeah.
If I were to ever get that, will I have to do that training where you go into a helicopter in a swimming pool and have to, be able to
Bail out.
get out and swim up top? Like, to go offshore, what do you need to do?
So absolutely, you'll have to do that unless you're going with an executive or a member of Congress or
Okay.
the president.
You can get a waiver then.
Okay. Because I'm not very good at swimming, but I would really like to go to it.
So another secret that I would share at a table is I cannot swim, but I pass the test every 4 years.
How?
Because you go and take the test, and all the people that can't swim, they get red helmets, and all the people who can swim, they get regular helmets. And there's always a person kind of looking out for me and making sure that I can escape from the helicopter simulator on time, right? So I don't stress out about it too much, but I go and I get it done every 4 years, so I can keep that connection with the field.
Wow.
We just got to make sure to push them out the helicopter first.
Okay. So you somehow have to signal a real life situation. You have a red helmet on.
That's the red helmet. That's
Yeah.
the red helmet. Okay.
No, he never told us that, by the way, all these years. I'm just finding that out.
Yeah.
No, but there are people who cannot swim. They still go offshore.
Yeah.
So, you're wearing a flotation device, et cetera. So,
Okay. Got it.
So I'm a little curious about the market today, because I think when we came into the beginning of the year, in 2025, seems so long ago, there was a lot of predictions of low price of oil, and we saw a lot of belt tightening. I think we saw ConocoPhillips reduce size, and we had a couple of other companies reduce size before.
yeah.
And then obviously it was like February, the world changed, and we saw the price of oil go up. And I talked to a lot of customers, and they
I
said
think it was above 100 yesterday.
above 100 again. I talked to a bunch of operators, and they said, well, we're not spending capital yet because we don't know where we need to deploy it. And, now it's been 6 months, more or less. And I'm sure there's still a lot of conservatism with wanting to deploy, because again, that same question is out there. But I'm curious, with your kind of your sense with the market, like how are people planning? Because we're going to hit planning cycle again soon in the next 4 months. And I think people trying to deploy new technology need to understand if they're, what the sentiment is, because if we're not spending money again next year, that changes the sales strategy. It changes the sales cycle. And so I'm curious how you're seeing operators think about this world we're in right now.
I mean, for me, I get asked similar questions a lot, including, why is commodity prices going, why is gas going up in the U.S.? We have nothing to do with what's going on in the Strait or whatever. But I think what oil companies and what the market's like is stability.
Yeah.
And any form of instability or uncertainty, unrest, et cetera, that's why commodity prices going up. And that's why commitment to doing discretionary things like technology is probably going down. I think that it will stay in the budget cycle. I think going through October, et cetera, in the next year, you'll still have that money available to do things in the tech and innovation space. But instability drives a lack of commitment, I think, for some. We talked about that earlier a little bit. But I mean, that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it was probably maybe about 3 to 4 years ago. A lot of operators they were on a quest for, let's produce a $10 per barrel. And it doesn't matter what's going on. We will do this to protect ourselves. And I don't think we've ever gotten out of that.
Okay.
Yeah. I know for a while there, offshore was, I would say, with all the capital going into unconventionals, like offshore had a slow period for like 5 or 6 years.
Absolutely.
And then suddenly you've seen a lot of these leases kind of open up in Latin America. And I think I've been seeing some activity in Africa. What's changed in terms of like kind of bringing activation energy
It's
back
policy,
in?
right?
Is it policy?
I think policy and the basins matured onshore quite a bit, right? So the returns and the private equity money and the operators onshore recognize that, there's been a decline and maybe past peak from that perspective, and looking at other areas, including offshore, along the way, there have been some major discoveries like in Guyana, for example, and other places. So, where at one time people thought offshore was sort of dead, there's no more large discoveries to be had. Well, they've been having several, and Murphy's had some there, I think, in other parts of the world also. So that's
and if you're having to replace reserves, you want to go for a long-term, big replacement sometimes.
Yeah.
We hope so. Yeah.
If I've learned anything, there are always more reserves we just haven't evaluated. It's just a matter of what the price of oil needs to be for us to go look.
Yeah. It's an interesting optimization challenge.
You're going to say something?
Yeah, I think for a while there was like a dichotomy between energy transition and developing more offshore oil and gas, right? And like people were just confused, so the investment stopped for a while. But what you have to realize is like the cycle time to invest in getting your first drop of oil is like, I don't know, maybe 6 to 8 years sometimes.
It absolutely.
So you're seeing more short cycle projects, which are like tiebacks, which is like maybe a couple subsea trees and one flow line that go to an existing facility. And you're just not seeing the big stuff anymore, where you got a big $6 billion platform with a bunch of wells tied back to it. You're seeing that in Guyana and in the new frontiers, but not a lot in the Gulf.
Yeah, where the economics are staggering for those. But I think that's played a huge part into it. The investment cycle for offshore is very long.
Yeah, and I think that's what I heard a lot during the height of the shale revolution. Right, you can get your money back in 9 months for a shale well. Right, and versus having to tie it up for 6 years. And you might make less money overall, but it's easier to turn it on and off. It's a safer bet. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm curious. So I'm going to go on another random question, but I was just thinking about your comment earlier of if someone comes to you with a technology to help you produce more oil versus maybe some of these other startups coming to you with technologies that have good but ancillary benefits. Why are founders not working on the gold mine? Is it just because there aren't gold mine? They can't solve those problems, or people not coming out of the industry and understanding like that's where they need to focus?
I'll let you tackle that.
Yeah, so that's a two-part answer for me. And our team looked after subsurface technologies, drilling technologies, production, et cetera. The production operations and all of those technologies were fairly easy to get your mind around, to understand, et cetera. The ones that existed in the subsurface space, better characterization of reservoirs, or standing up surrogates for reservoir models, or better yet, changing the porosity or chemistry of the formation itself. Those are super complicated, hard to understand. Very esoteric. People understood the knowledge base to even deploy those types of technologies. So the problem is much harder the closer you get to the oil, I would say. Because the transferable knowledge between asset management exists for upstream, midstream, downstream, et cetera. It's all production kind of equipment. Even onshore and offshore can share quite a bit. But when you get down to the reservoir, it gets quite different. And even in the wells, the plumbing of the wells themselves, that coupled with a lot of highly experienced, knowledgeable, esoteric people leaving the industry. So, and then the founder...
If they're leaving, why aren't they starting companies? They know the problem.
You would think so, but it's not the same DNA. It's not the same mindset. People who grew up in a bureaucratic organization like Chevrons and Exxons, et cetera, they do not have a agile mindset. They do not have the risk tolerance around, I'm going to take some money and go start something, and it may not work out, and odds are it's not going to work out. They just don't have that risk profile to do that. So I think it's key and that's actually an opportunity. Your question raises an opportunity in the industry, which is founders and startups and the startup incubation system ought to be looking for these highly experienced esoteric people and grabbing them from an advisory perspective or co-founders, et cetera.
Yeah.
So some of the best practice that we kind of articulate to early founders today is to talk to about 150 people around your target customer. And so maybe 50 direct users, 50 vendors, just everyone who's kind of around it. So you can really get in and understand the problem. And I think one of the things that's additionally challenging about the oil field is you can't actually go out into it's not easy to go out to the offshore platform.
Yeah, and they don't respond to your emails.
And they don't respond to your emails. I remember going out to Midland and going up to a field office, and I realized, everyone actually only meets at the office once a week, and they're gone by 7 a.m. if they even come in at all. Yeah. And so sometimes it's really hard to get to a customer, and that becomes, in some ways, becomes a barrier to entry. And I think one of the things that Collide has done really well is the Collide team here is a bunch of folks from the industry. Yeah. It's really easy to get in. But if you're you're a smart kid out of Texas A&M and you might have the next inspection robot, how do you get that to people so you can figure out which robot to build? And that's kind of the $10 million question, I guess.
Yeah, I think it has nothing to do with knowledge. It's personal skills, right?
Yeah.
It's having the emotional intelligence to go somewhere and be the only person in the room, right? And meet people and shake hands and go to conferences and network. Like Jacob is the most networking person I've ever met. People hit him up on LinkedIn, and the next thing I know, they're having coffee the same week. And it's going into these conversations with no intentions. I don't have a PO that I'm holding behind my back or an estimate that I'm going to give you. But it's just having a network of people that you just go and it's you're not bringing any collateral to the table and trying to earn business or anything. It's just knowing about what's going on and knowing about what people to go talk to. You talk to one person, that person's going to send you out to go talk to 3 or 4 other people, and you just keep going and going, and you become a natural, right?
Yeah, and I think the way you describe it, there's this authenticity to that, right? You're not going with any preconceived notions or trying to hold leverage over people, et cetera. But I think also leveraging, there's a massive pool of experienced people that are available, I think, in the Houston area that folks can do that with. I think, we sit with startups quite a bit on a pro bono basis just to talk with, brainstorm, provide, feedback, et cetera. We sat with 3 companies a few weeks ago at Greentown. And, in the first 10 minutes after hearing, well, what does your company do? And they tell us, and we're like, well, have you talked to this type of customer? Or do you know that this persona is actually the one you should be selling to? And 9 times out of 10, they don't have a clear understanding of where their tech actually fits in the value chain and which specific persona they should be pitching to.
Yeah. So just if I can pry a little, did you talk to like Pike Robotics or Capwell as some of the ones you met over
I
there?
spoke with Capwell.
So so I think like the Capwell guys are interesting because they started this company right out of school, and I think they've done a good job of trying to get out there and working with operators. But like you said, it took 10 years to develop the domain expertise to kind of understand all the processes, right? And I think the best time to start a company is when you're out of school because you have no obligations. I think Andrew and them were like living together in like a place right here off of Greentown and sharing one car. Like you don't have the financial liabilities that come with having kind of a.
But you have no
life.
experience either.
Yeah. So that's the question: is that how would you advise those folks? Like I said, coming out of school who might have like really interesting technology.
And maybe a little bit more orchestration ability as well.
Yeah, they don't have the EQ capabilities. They don't have the experience.
Yeah.
They don't have the network. They're at a great disadvantage, which is why the failure rate's so high.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm advocating for advisors. They should get some people to help advise them, tap into their resources, tap into our network, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think the Capwell guys did, they've been building out an advisor network, and that's why they moved to Houston. They moved out of Pennsylvania. And so that's kind of the answer for our audience is like, go get an advisory group who's really in the industry.
Yeah,
right?
it can be very helpful. And, because a lot of companies, they just need one pilot, one break, one opportunity, exposure to the right people at the right time, go into the right room and network with the right people. But that opportunity is not coming to your house, to your couch. You have to go out and get it and socialize and meet people. And, Lady Luck's looking for you out on the street, not at your house.
I love that.
That's a good one.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, man, we're running a little over time, so I appreciate you guys being here. It's already been an hour, and I learned so much about innovation in the industry and in offshore, and I learned what flow assurance is. So I will remember for the rest of my life.
And you
now.
learned what hydrates are not butter; they're ice.
They're like in my mind. It's like when anyways.
If they were butter, I wouldn't have a job.
I think I was thinking of saturated fats. So
Saturated fats, saturated fats are.
He is a hell of a cook.
But no, I appreciate having you guys here. How can people find you?
Well, through our websites, we're out and about all over. He actually offices at the Ion, so he's there.
Yeah, I'm at the Ion on the second floor.
Yeah.
Come see me. I'm always there.
You're at the
in the
Ion.
coffee area.
Okay.
No, but LinkedIn, Jason Harry, Pontem Analytics, PontemAnalytics.com.
And myself, LinkedIn as well. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. Jacob Vizinat, my company, IronStagAdvisory.com, my website. And I'm at the Ion too. I spend quite a bit of time with Cognite, is a company that I help advise as a industry expert. So I'm there on the third floor a couple days a week also.
Okay. And how do we spell your last name, just for everyone who heard it and doesn't?
Well,
don't know,
it's Vizinat.
All right, there you go.
Silent T.
Silent T.
Yeah. And so, we always like to have calls to action at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So, what can our audience potentially help you with, and what can you potentially help our audience with?
Well, I think,
or if you have an ask.
Yeah, I think we kind of laid out what we can help your audience with, right? And trying to, understanding the right angles and how to approach the big company. For us, I don't know. The ask is not much on my side. I just like to share information. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, for me, it's about perspective. So the audience of this that consumes this type of content oftentimes has a myopic perspective through their foundership or their company, et cetera. And you really have to try and step out of that and understand the perspective of your investor, the perspective of your customer, or who is the ultimate buyer of your company or your technology, and keep that dance of perspective management active at all times. And that's hard to do. But to me, that is my biggest piece of advice usually for folks is keep the perspective straight if you can.
Good. Well, thanks for joining us.
No,
I
thank
really
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks,
the
guys.
opportunity.
This is great.